Hello everyone and welcome back to DMG. This video is going to be a bit longer than most of my other hard drive related videos, like 10 to 15 minutes usually. It's probably going to be much longer. So I do apologize for that, but there's a lot of information in this video that I would not be able to condense down and still have the same meaning. It's kind of a hard drive video essay, if you will. This is a topic that I think it's really important to be informed about when buying a hard drive. So I wanted to just collect a lot of evidence. This was like many hours of research and just finding stuff and put it all in one place. And also, I'm sorry for this that you're seeing. It's part of the tripod. I've got a camera pointed down at my desk because I will be doing some things down there later. But without any further ado, here we go. White label drives, often branded as WL. Now, you'll see these in a lot of places on eBay, and they look like just regular hard drives, of course. But they're not in the same sense that you would get a hard drive brand new from WD, Seagate, HGST, those major manufacturers. Now, I do want to discuss really quickly. I'll turn on this camera. Most hard drives, in fact, actually have a white label. The term white label is kind of a blanket term in reference to hard drives, but it's also very specific. It's a blanket term for a very specific group of drive. So these drives here, I've got a huge stack. These drives all have white labels. But the only drive that I have here that is truly white label in the sense that we are referring to it today is this one right here. Now, you may notice this is a bit different than the rest of them. And I will go more in detail on this drive later, but currently I'm just going to talk about them in general. You notice this is probably the first thing you notice when you look at this drive is how bland and uninteresting it is. And that it's from a company you've probably never heard of called MDD, Max Digital Data. You've probably never heard of them because they're not a major hard drive manufacturer. In fact, they're not even a hard drive manufacturer at all. The only thing they made is this label. Let me explain a bit further. White label drives are not actually made by like the company that sells them. So that's why you'll usually see them with either a small or unknown brand or just no branding at all. It says like MediaMax right here on the label. Sorry, it's a bit difficult for me to see. That's not a company you've ever heard of. And this drive right here is sold as open box. So that's another thing. These are usually sold as seller refurbished, open box. One of those two. Sometimes you'll find them new, like this one. And these are both branded with the same logo, but this one says MediaMax and this one does not. So it's kind of up in the air where these white label drives actually come from. But before they are white label, they come from a major manufacturer. So white label drives are either reject because of like manufacturing defects or old stock of major hard drive manufacturers. So that's WD, Seagate, HGST slash Hitachi. I have yet to find a hard drive that is not identical to one of their design that is branded as white label. Now these drives, again, so they're being made by big companies. Why are they not being sold by big companies? Again, could just be old stock or unwanted. Similar to that, like $13 SSD we took a look at a couple of videos ago. I discussed how that was probably reject NAND from maybe Samsung, Micron, that makes SSDs. It was too low for their, quality standards. So basically, it got put in the NAND bargain bin so that other companies could buy it and put it in their crappy drives for way lower prices. That's another thing you'll notice with these drives. Like, $25 is suspiciously cheap. Like, $55 for a 2 terabyte drive is also a bit cheap. Usually those will Usually, like a good quality 2 terabyte drive is going to run you up a little more than that. So yeah, these are generally cheaper than you'd find, their real counterparts to be. Now, another indicator that they're not new is a lot of them. Let's see, I think I can find one here. Yeah. The hard disk status is perfect. So they literally show a smart scan, and it says right here it's got 3 years, 23 days, and 20 hours. So this drive here is probably used. So that could also be another source of white label drives, just used drives that get rebranded. So of course, some caution has to be exercised when buying one of these. Now, I want to be very clear. I don't have an issue with these. I don't think manufacturers should stop selling these. It's actually good. It reduces e-waste. Because else these hard drives would probably just get thrown out. But they're getting repurposed and rebranded. And if they are listed correctly and it's like transparent that they are not brand new, that's good. But I still want to do a bit of a deep dive to, the source of these drives. So this drive right here is what I'm going to be specifically looking at because it is a white label drive that I own. MDD is, it's like a hard drive refurbish / white label company. They rebrand some of the hard drives that they resell, but some of them they don't. And I'm pretty sure the rebranded ones are the newish ones that are white label, and the ones that aren't carrying their logo are the used ones. Like, for example, it's sold by MDD, shipped from the same company or from the same Amazon seller I bought this drive from. I've got a camera down here. I don't need to lift it up. I just realized. But yeah, shipped from that seller. Yeah, max digital data renewed, 0 bad sectors, 100% health. So some of their drives are used, but some of them, like this one, are like designs from other companies that are now bearing their logo. And these are the white label drives. Sorry, I did not mean to open that. Now, if you take a look at these drives, you'll probably notice something funny. Like, oh wait, that's not a rebranded one. Let's see. We'll take yes, this one. Sorry, I'm getting a bit off track, but first I just want to talk about this. So, look at this drive. Now look at that drive. Is it just me, or is it not a coincidence that the corners of the label are exactly the same? This curve pattern and then the square here is the same as that drive. And because that's a high capacity like NAS drive, of course it's going to have extra screws here to provide more head support because that's what it needs. But okay. Oh yeah, it even has the SATA and advanced format right here. Now if you look really closely at the Amazon picture, it looks like they just put a little white line over where it would say Seagate, which is very interesting. I think it even says, here, I'll look on my drive. It might even say Seagate, like, further down here, like where my mouse is on the big picture. Yes, Seagate Secure. So they didn't even erase all of the branding from it. So that's a bit of an interesting one. I wonder if I were to actually buy this drive, if I would get one that said MDD or one that said Seagate, or maybe it just come with whiteout on it, like the one in the picture. Let's take a look at another one. This design I'm less familiar with, but I'm pretty sure it's a WD. It might also be a Seagate though. Like I'm not too up to date on newer hard drive designs, but I'm pretty sure that that is it's not the same as this one because the hole spacing is different. Can't be similar to that one. So I do think it is a newer, like maybe WD Red, because I've heard complaints from people on the WD Red that they removed the middle hole that would be right here. So you can see that drive only has two holes on the side for mounting and two there for mounting. Typically you've got maybe one there and definitely two there, but it's not that way on some of the newer WD drives. So I do think this drive is actually a WD. And yes, it's got its own MDD model number, MD6000 GSA, 6000 because it's a 6 terabyte. I'm gonna actually reopen this one. So this one says it's made by Max Digital Data, but it's an ST8000N, that's a Seagate model number. So for example, this Seagate drive, 500 gig ST500DM002, basically, again, you're not getting a drive made by MDD, it's just a rebranded Seagate. Product may come in generic box. Yes, it will come in a generic box because you're not buying it. Again, this is coming from Amazon Renewed, so you do kind of know what you're getting here. With the eBay listings, though, it can be a bit more nefarious. Like, this one is listed as new. Taking a look at this drive, I'm pretty sure it is a WD. It has some WD-esque characteristics. It might also be an HGST, but I just want to demonstrate this really quickly. So here's this MDD 1 terabyte drive. Let's take a look at it and then a look at this. Let's see. Label in basically the same place. The controller board is a different size, but the traces come out of the motor at exactly the same angle. It doesn't have the sticker here, but it's got the metal part there. It's got this solder point for like a large chip. It's just shifted slightly over on that controller board. And then this metal piece down there is what is sticking through the board right here on this drive. So I bet this is a very similar drive chassis. So that is why, so that's why it's, you know, similar. And actually, this is a really good example. Right down here, we've got a... None of this is sponsored. I'm just opening random eBay links. Yeah, that's a WD drive. You get pretty much this same controller board. You know, label there. Solder points for the chip there. Traces coming out of the motor there. And, let's see. Yeah, the end of it is the same. You've got that little square, that little rectangle, and then those pins is exactly the same. And even the little black dots on the front, there isn't one there, but there's one there, there, and there, like it has. There's one there, which this drive does not have, and it's more curved there. But this definitely points me towards the fact that it's a WD drive. While I was doing research for this video, I actually just did a quick comparison. And this drive, I was pretty sure it was WD because it's the most similar visually. So like these two, you can see, it's definitely not the same model. This is like a 20-year-old WD. But look, no other hard drive manufacturer puts the vent right there. But almost every WD 3.5-inch drive that I've seen puts it there. You know, on the end, it looks almost exactly the same. By the SATA connectors, you've got those little holes and everything. So that pointed me towards the fact it was a WD. Alright, it's time for the big reveal. I'm pretty sure it's from the, like, 10-something X series. Now, these are pretty much the drives that I was looking at earlier on eBay. So, like, first let's take a look at this WD Red. It's a WD10EFRX. Okay, 64 megabyte cache. 64 megabyte cache. Probably 7200 RPM. It doesn't say it on it, but I have more that actually say the rotation speed later on. SATA, of course it's SATA. Let's see. We'll go to the next one. Okay, here's the WD10EZEX. All of them end in EX. Sorry, just X. Not all of them are EX. Now, these aren't the exact drives, but they sure do have a lot of similarities, down to the little notch right there of a very peculiar shape. The little black dots are in almost the same spot, but as we said earlier, this here is on that side of the drive, and it's less rounded on the MDD. So this is probably more of what we're looking at. This is marketed as like a surveillance grade drive. It's 64 megabyte cache, of course. Then here's a like WD Caviar Green. Pretty sure that's exactly what we looked at earlier. That's a much older model, 2012. I recall, yeah, 7200 RPM class, this WD Blue says. It's really hard to see, but that's what it says. And I think the date says 2014 on this one. So yes, you're probably looking at an older WD drive. Now, oh no, where did I put it? I had a Amazon listing that showed the inside of the drive, and it was 4 platters. I can't find it now, but this drive is thick and heavy enough to have 4 platters. So I think that that's pretty much the series of drive we're looking at here. So yeah, we've gotten to the bottom of this one. I'm not going to open it up because I want to use this drive, though. I am, though, going to put it in my workstation. Just slide it on in here. Wow. Yeah, that's a big boy. So this drive, because it's on the internal SAS controller, will actually allow me to read smart statistics like it is a local disk. Like it is like a mounted permanent drive inside the computer, unlike caddies, which treat it as a removable drive. So, here it's got its little MDD name. It's running at SATA 3 gigs per second, but I think it's SATA 6 gigs per second compatible. That's just the speed that the SAS controller will do. Drive serial number. Here we go. WD dash. Blah, 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 blah. It's a WD drive. Let's see. Yeah, this, so it looks like this drive was probably a reject one. I haven't used it much, but I have used it. I used it briefly for backup. I've had it for about a year. So yeah, it wasn't used much, so I doubt that, because it's only got 4.4 days on it, that's only 106 hours. I don't think that this was a used drive. I think this was a literally brand new drive that just got rejected by WD for some reason. That's interesting. That's a lot of load and unloads and a lot of power cycles. 151 more power cycles than power on hours is a bit unusual. Let me find one of my other hard drives. Okay, here's a slightly newer WD. 1690 hours, and power cycle count only 324. And then here's a almost 10-year-old drive here. 160 hours. And where was it? Power off, retract count 1824. So yeah, it's not normal to have more power cycles than your like power on hours. But I'm just going to ignore that for now. So yeah, they weren't lying. This drive has no failing attributes, which is fantastic. We've got all green check marks, and it doesn't matter what the red check marks up here are. That's not smart related. That's not related to drive health. So yeah, there's nothing problematic about this drive to the eye, but it probably had some small flaw, or maybe it was just one of those overstock drives. So that's why it's not WD branded, but instead MDD branded. Also, this drive is very loud and shakes the whole front of the PC when it spins because the caddy that I have it in isn't very well noise isolated. So that further kind of demonstrates that it has so many platters. So I've taken it out of the caddy. Let's just do a quick compare here. So here's the Seagate drive. You're going to notice it looks very similar to what you saw earlier in some of the listings. Look how much information this has. Like this is a 4-paragraph freaking paper. Like look at the amount of detailed spec in clear verbose language it has. Now over to this one, it tells you it's a hard drive. It tells you the capacity, tells you the speed, the cache, the interface. That's it. You don't get anything else. Just a model number, specs, and kind of a brand that kind of exists. Then, of course, the stuff you would expect from a drive like Fragile and SATA compatible, which you also see on this one. Doesn't even tell you the voltage like it will here, plus 5 volt and plus 12 volt. That's what it's getting from the SATA power. And, you know, here it's got like all this diagram stuff. That's a rather old drive, but even on a newer Seagate drive, sure, you get less information than this one, but you sure do get quite a lot more than this one. That's an easy way to identify white label drives. If they are just ridiculously basic looking, like look, it's got no specs. Does that even have specs? Yeah, no. It just tells you what connectors to plug in. This drive doesn't even have Molex, so that's irrelevant. Has the brand logo from a brand that didn't make it. So that's an easy way to identify white label drives. Usually it'll say white label in the title, but if you see a drive that looks a bit like this, that's probably a white label drive. So that means you're going to be getting no warranty. You might be getting a used drive, and you also there's a chance that you'll be getting the like faulty kind of drive. It's not faulty to the point where it doesn't work, but it might have a couple bad sectors. It might have like a tiny issue with the head that WD didn't want, but these resellers might be fine with. And again, you might get a perfectly fine drive that's just a slightly older model, like this one. So be careful. I would, again, recommend buying straight from the company, straight from WD, straight from HDST, straight from Hitachi. Those are the same company, straight from Seagate. Instead of buying from like eBay. Personally, I say just never buy hard drives from eBay because most things on eBay don't have a warranty unless you're buying from the official store. And used hard drives from like just some guy who's selling his hard drive is of course not an idea. Is of course not a good idea. But you know, even these that are sold by huge companies with 5,000 products, this is probably more than one person. They've only been a member for about 2 years. That's interesting. But again, just be careful where you're buying drives from. That pretty much wraps it up for the look into white label drives. It might be interesting to seek out what drive this probably is and then do a teardown of it because I could probably get that cheaper than a white label drive because I could buy a broken one. You can't buy a broken white label drive. That's literally just called e-waste. But anyway, that's it for this video. Thank you everyone for watching. I hope this did clear up just a little bit, and see you next time.